some Irish Richard Thompson or Sandy Denny record, you know. It's just all there, and I can't limit myself. People separate it, but for me, soulful, funky music is just something that I always loved. I mean, easily just the playing and the songs and the feeling with the audience, there's nothing like it. It's
Hard Again taught her that BonnieRaitt has always been drawn to authentic music that moves the soul. Whether it's the funky rhythms that make you want to dance or the haunting melodies of Irish folk artists, she finds it impossible to limit herself to just one style. For her, soulful and funky music represents something she has loved throughout her entire life. The connection between the playing, the songs, and the feelings shared with an audience creates an experience like nothing else. Throughout her career, BonnieRaitt never felt the need to prove herself to anyone. She simply plugged in her guitar and told the truth through her music. Her slide guitar had a way of expressing emotion that was more like crying than shouting. Even when she was young and just starting out, her voice carried the wisdom of blues singers who had lived much longer lives. While other rock musicians celebrated excess and pushed everything to extremes, Raitt celebrated genuine feeling and emotional honesty. She built her entire legacy on restraint and good taste, along with an absolute refusal to fake anything or be anything other than herself. Behind her distinctive red hair and well-worn Stratocaster guitar lived someone who was truly a scholar of American music. She dedicated herself to studying blues masters, absorbing the storytelling techniques of folk musicians, and learning from soul singers how to make every single word matter and resonate with listeners. She looked to artists like Mose Allison and Randy Newman as guides, learning from them how to be both satirical and humorous in her approach to music. Raitt didn't just play music for entertainment. She protected it, honored its traditions, and worked to keep it alive for future generations. 10 particular albums became the foundation of her musical education. They taught her when to bend a note until it expressed pure emotion and when to let silence speak louder than any sound could. These albums shaped her understanding of what music could be and how it could touch people's hearts. The first album that influenced her deeply was Mississippi John Hurt's Avalon Blues from 1963. Hurt had a way of playing guitar that felt like he was sharing secrets with you over a cup of coffee. BonnieRaitt appreciated what an incredible collection of songs it was, representing such a rich history while showcasing really good writing and meaningful lyrics. While most blues musicians shouted about pain and suffering, Hurt whispered wisdom in a gentle voice. His finger-picking style was delicate and almost fragile, yet somehow it carried the weight of decades of living simply and honestly. Raitt studied his touch carefully, learning how he made the guitar breathe and speak rather than attack the listener. Songs like Candyman and Avalon Blues moved with quiet grace and dignity. Hurt never rushed through anything and never forced emotion where it didn't belong. He just allowed the music to unfold naturally at its own pace. From him, Raitt warned that blues music didn't have to be aggressive or loud to be powerful. Sometimes the softest voice cuts the deepest and leaves the most lasting impression. Hurt's technique was economical in the best possible way. Every note he played served a clear purpose. There was no showing off and no wasted motion anywhere in his playing. That discipline became absolutely central to Raitt's own approach to the guitar. She realized that great guitar work wasn't about how fast you could play or how loud you could be. It was about intention, about feeling, about delivering truth through your fingertips. By 1977, when Muddy Waters released Hard Again, a blues legend who needed to reinvent himself, the album delivered exactly that with raw power and energy. BonnieRaitt called this record a masterclass in refusing to fade away gracefully. Muddy was in his 60s, but played like he had everything to prove to the world. Producer Johnny Winter stripped away all the studio polish and captured Muddy at his most primal and essential. The sound was dirty, immediate, and urgent in a way that demanded attention. Raitt loved that fearlessness and willingness to be vulnerable. Songs like Mannish Boy and I Can't Be Satisfied bristled with authority and confidence. This wasn't an album of nostalgia or looking backward. It was a declaration that blues legends could still be dangerous and relevant. Raitt absorbed that lesson completely and carried it throughout her career. She understood that staying relevant didn't mean chasing whatever trends were popular at the moment. It meant doubling down on what made you powerful and unique in the first place. Authenticity ages much better than compromise ever could. The album's slide guitar work directly influenced Raitt's own approach, showing her how to make the instrument both howl with rage and whisper with tenderness in the same song. Muddy Waters didn't evolve as an artist by changing who he was fundamentally. He evolved by becoming more himself, more concentrated in his essence. When At Last arrived in 1960, Etta James announced herself as royalty in the world of music. BonnieRaitt wore this album out from repeated listening. She picked every song on her list because something in each one resonated deeply with something inside her, feeling just as real as anything in her own experience. Etta's voice could shatter glass with its power, or caress silk with its gentleness, often in the same verse. The title track became an instant standard that everyone recognized, but Raitt studied the entire album as if it were a vocal clinic.
Etta moved effortlessly between tenderness and power, never letting technical ability overshadow genuine emotion. She sang like every word was her last chance to tell the truth to anyone who would listen. From Etta, Raitt learned that great singing wasn't about having the biggest range or hitting the highest notes. It was about conviction and meaning what you sang. Songs like A Sunday Kind of Love and My Dearest Darling demonstrated how to inhabit a lyric completely and live inside it. Etta didn't just perform songs in a detached way. She lived with them and made them part of herself. That commitment influenced how Raitt approached her own vocals from that point forward. She stopped trying to sound pretty or perfect and started trying to sound honest and real. Etta taught her that vulnerability was actually a form of strength, that letting your voice crack or strain could be more moving than achieving technical perfection. This was soul music at its absolute purest. Released in 1989, The Healer found John Lee Hooker collaborating with younger artists who deeply revered him and his legacy. BonnieRaitt appeared on the album, playing alongside her hero. But before those recording sessions, she had studied Hooker's entire catalog obsessively. The album captured his hypnotic boogie style, that endless groove that somehow felt both ancient and futuristic at the same time. Hooker's guitar work was minimal, but devastating in its impact. He would lock into a riff and ride it until time seemed to disappear completely. Raitt marveled at his patience and his refusal to oversell anything. Hooker taught her that repetition could be transcendent and spiritual, that groove mattered more than complexity or showing off technical skills. His vocals rumbled like distant thunder, deeply rhythmic and utterly hypnotic in their effect. From Hooker, Raitt learned that blues was fundamentally physical music, meant to be felt in your bones and your body, not just understood intellectually. The Healer showed her that collaboration could honor tradition while simultaneously reaching new audiences. Hooker didn't modernize his sound to fit current trends. He let others meet him on his own terms, with his own artistic vision intact. That integrity became Raitt's guiding principle throughout her entire career. In 1962, Ray Charles did something that many considered unthinkable. He took country music, that traditional bastion of white Southern culture, and soaked it completely in soul. Modern sounds in country and Western scandalized purists and became a massive commercial hit. BonnieRaitt recognized the genius immediately. Ray proved that music had no borders or boundaries, that talent and genuine feeling could transcend any genre limitation. His version of I Can't Stop Loving You transformed a country standard into an expression of universal heartbreak that anyone could understand. Raitt studied how Ray approached those songs with total respect for the originals, but complete ownership of his interpretations. He didn't try to mimic country singers or copy their style. He translated country emotion into his own musical language and made it his own. That fearlessness influenced Raitt's entire career trajectory. She would spend decades blending blues, rock,
country, and folk without worrying about genre police or purists who wanted everything to stay in neat categories. Raitt taught her that authenticity mattered far more than purity or staying within prescribed boundaries. The album's orchestration was lush and full, but it never overwhelmed Raitt's voice or personality. From this, Raitt learned that great production should serve the artist and support them, never overshadowing what made them special. Ray Charles showed her that breaking rules with conviction and confidence creates classics that last. Released in 1968, Soul, Folk, and Action captured the staple singers at their most powerful and relevant. Gospel, soul, folk music, and political activism merged into something that BonnieRaitt found spiritually essential. Mavis Staples possessed a voice that could shake foundations with its power, but she sang with a warmth that felt like family gathering together. Pop Staples' guitar work was deceptively simple, creating space for the message to come through clearly. Songs like Long Walk to D.C. and Move Along Train carried social and political weight without ever becoming preachy or heavy-handed. The Staples proved that music could fight against injustice while simultaneously uplifting people's spirits. Raitt absorbed that delicate balance carefully. She learned that songs could matter beyond mere entertainment, that artists had a responsibility to speak truth to power. But the Staples never sacrificed musicality or groove for the sake of delivering a message. The grooves were deep and infectious, the harmonies absolutely transcendent. Raitt studied how they made righteousness sound joyful and celebratory, how they turned protest into something people wanted to join. This album taught her that the best political music didn't lecture audiences or make them feel guilty. Instead, it invited them to join the march through sheer infectious power and positive energy. Faith and funk united perfectly in their music. Little Feat's self-titled debut from 1971 crashed into BonnieRaitt's world like a revelation that changed everything. Lowell George's slide guitar spoke a language that Raitt desperately wanted to learn and master. The album blended rock, blues, funk, and country into something completely original that hadn't existed before. George played slide guitar with a vocabulary that went far beyond traditional blues approaches. He could make it sing, cry, laugh, and sneer, often in the same song. Raitt studied his touch obsessively, analyzing how he combined technical mastery with raw emotional expression. Songs like Strawberry Flats and Truck Stop Girl grooved hard, but never lost their melodic soul or emotional core. George taught Raitt that slide guitar didn't have to wail constantly at maximum volume. Sometimes a subtle glide or gentle touch said more than any dramatic bend could express. The band's ensemble playing was loose and relaxed, but also precise and tight, managing to be both funky and sophisticated at the same time. From Little Feat, Raitt learned that great musicmanship should serve songs rather than overpowering them or drawing attention to itself. George's phrasing and sense of timing became a major influence on her own slide guitar work. She adopted his restraint and his instinctive sense of when to push forward and when to lay back and let space do the work. When Chess Records compiled Moanin' in the Moonlight in 1959, they captured something like lightning in a bottle. Howlin' Wolf's voice was supernatural, impossibly deep and primal in ways that seemed barely human. BonnieRaitt called it the sound of the earth itself singing the blues. Howlin' didn't just perform songs in a conventional way, he inhabited them with shamanic intensity and commitment. Tracks like Smokestack Lightning and Moanin' at Midnight felt ancient, as if they had existed forever before anyone bothered to write them down or record them. Raitt studied Howlin's total commitment and the way he gave absolutely everything to every single line he sang. His band, featuring Willie Dixon's powerful bass playing and Hubert Summerlin's jagged guitar work, created textures that were simultaneously raw and sophisticated.
Wolf taught Raitt that real power didn't require polish or studio perfection. Authenticity would trump technical perfection every single time. His stage presence, even when captured only on record, radiated pure authority and command. Raitt learned that commanding audience attention wasn't just about volume or loudness, it was about total conviction in what you were expressing and complete belief in your message. Wolf's blues was physical, sexual, and spiritual all at once, unified in one overwhelming expression. He showed Raitt that great blues came from somewhere beyond mere technique, somewhere primal and fundamentally true. Released in 1966, Blonde on Blonde was rock music growing up and maturing in real time. Bob Dylan's ambitious double album sprawled with literary ambition, mixing surreal poetry with blues, rock, and folk influences. BonnieRaitt heard it as a young artist and realized that lyrics in rock music could be actual literature worthy of serious consideration. Dylan's complex wordplay on songs like Visions of Johanna and Stuck Inside of Mobile stretched what rock music could say and mean beyond simple love songs. But Raitt also studied the musicianship carefully. The Nashville session players created loose, breathing arrangements that supported Dylan's artistic vision perfectly without getting in the way. The album taught her that great songs needed space to unfold and develop, that trying to cram everything into a standard 3-minute format could kill whatever magic was trying to emerge. Dylan's harmonica playing was raw and expressive, never technically perfect in a conventional sense, but always emotionally right for the moment. Raitt learned from that kind of authenticity and willingness to prioritize feeling over perfection. Blonde on Blonde showed her that albums could be ambitious artistic statements rather than just collections of individual singles thrown together. It proved that rock music could be intelligent and literary without being pretentious, experimental without alienating ordinary listeners. Dylan's fearlessness in following his vision gave Raitt permission to trust her own instincts completely. The final album that influenced BonnieRaitt profoundly was Freebo, released by her longtime bass player and collaborator. Not many people know this album, but it genuinely changed Raitt's life and approach to music. Freebo's music blended folk intimacy with funk grooves, combining acoustic warmth with electric energy in unexpected ways. His playing was never flashy or designed to show off, but it was always exactly right for what each song needed. Raitt studied carefully how he served songs rather than his own ego, how he made space for other musicians to shine rather than dominating every moment. This album taught her about collaboration as a genuine art form, about trusting ensemble playing over individual showcasing and spotlight stealing. Freebo's vocals carried an honesty that reminded Raitt why she loved music in the first place. It wasn't for stardom or critical acclaim, but for connection with other people and expressing truth. His songwriting was simple but profound, finding real poetry in everyday moments that other people might overlook. This album represented everything that Raitt valued most deeply in music. It had craft without pretension, genuine feeling without manipulation, solid groove without cheap gimmicks or tricks. Freebo showed her that lasting music came from integrity and restraint rather than flash and showmanship. His approach became her North Star, guiding her through all the decisions she would make throughout her career. BonnieRaitt never simply copied what she heard from these artists. Instead, she honored them, absorbed their lessons deeply, and transformed what she learned into something uniquely her own. These 10 albums taught her that truth matters more than flash, that genuine feeling beats technical perfection, that great music serves the soul rather than the ego. From blues masters to folk poets, from soul singers to rock innovators, she took their collective wisdom and made it her own distinctive voice. She learned that restraint could be more powerful than excess, that space and silence mattered as much as sound, that serving the song was more important than showing off your abilities. These lessons shaped her into an artist who valued authenticity above all else, who refused to compromise her vision for commercial success, and who dedicated her life to protecting and honoring the musical traditions she loved while making them fresh and relevant for new generations.